right, let's get into Devlog 3. This week covered quite a few things. Actually tackled quite a bit of stuff that I'm very happy about. I was able to make burnable objects, which I'm very excited about. We'll get right into that. And then also changed quite a bit on projectiles and added a couple other environmental things that we'll get right into here. So to start us off, we have this lovely little gentleman right here who will catch fire whenever he is inside of fire. Shocking, I know. He's a burnable object, which honestly was pretty simple to implement. Honestly, I was surprised at how easy these were to make. I had adjusted some things in the back end with signals and made them much more decoupled now, so it's a lot easier to actually have objects communicate with each other in the game without needing to actually attach to each other. That made it extremely easy to create these burnable objects, and not only are they burnable when they're inside a fire, but the player can actually catch them on fire as well, and then the player can get re-caught on fire from these things. And beyond that, it will also expand out to other blocks near it and start cascading the fire throughout the blocks and just perpetually spread it based on a timer. Man, I'm really happy with how this turned out. These things were actually super easy to put together, based on the new signal system that I had. And it's just so satisfying to just work very easily, and it sort of is just, it's very fun when it starts to come together and it starts to feel like the game is coming together more so. So yeah, I'm genuinely very, very happy with how these burnable blocks turned out. Also, I did change how the projectiles work now. So now not only can the earth elemental throw a block, but he can also pick it back up, which is super exciting. The only problem was that it was much more complicated than the burnable blocks were. I did get it working eventually. I picked thing up, I put thing down. I picked thing up, I put thing down. Whee! Man, this feature was so ridiculously, unbelievably complicated to implement. You have no idea. It's one of those situations that are just, it's very humbling and jarring when you start developing games, because it's one of those situations where just a basic feature like picking something up is just so unbelievably more complicated than you would have expected it to be, especially when you come from the perspective of only ever playing games. It's so insane how difficult it can be to get a simple little feature like this working, because there's just so much complexity with how a player might choose to go about picking up this rock. For example, they may choose to put their mouse over it from a distance and start walking towards it to go pick it up. They may choose to be within range to pick it up and then choose, you know what, nah, I'm not gonna pick it up. They may choose to put the effing thing on their head and walk around with it like a dunce cap for whatever reason. What this means is that whenever the player mouses over it, the rock needs to figure out how far the player is, then track the player to see when the player is within range, then send a message to the player when they are within range to let them know that it can be picked up, then continue to determine if the player is still within range or has moved their mouse off of it, then listen for a message from that player. If the player has clicked on them, then also listen for a message from the player if the player decides to let them go. It's such a nightmare. Such a tangle of logic, but I finally got it working, thank God. And now just look at it. You can just pick it up smoothly, so easily, and put it back down. I didn't even mention how I had to change it from a rigid body to a character body because of weird physics things. I digress. It works. That's what matters. On that note, I did also add some projectiles for the air elemental. Ooh, look at these. They also can catch fire, and they can spread fire to things. Look at that. Isn't that exciting? This was by far so much easier. I mean, the projectiles just get destroyed as soon as they hit a wall, or they just die to the fire as well. It's night and day difference between this and the earth elementals, stupid ass projectiles, but it works, so that's really what's mattering here. Finally, wrap this all up, I did create a couple of smaller features as well, like this little block right here, which can be pushed by the air blast. Wow. The intent of this is that this little block here, which is completely gone now, The intent of this guy is that essentially he can only be picked up by the Earth Elemental as well, and the idea will be that you have to place it on certain areas to cause in-game effects, like to shut things off or to open doors, basically. Stuff like that, just area of effects sort of items. I also added this platform which I'm standing on, which the Earth Elemental will fall through, so only the Air Elemental can stand on it. So there's some interesting mechanics around it, where if you swap elementals, you'll just kind of glide through it and be able to land back on it, especially with the wind here. It's kind of fun. Lastly, I worked quite a bit on the actual collision layers, so the way that objects see and detect each other in the game. I did a lot of work on that, actually defining the specific layers and trying to bring some semblance of organization to them. Makes it a bit easier to work with moving forward. But overall, that's it for this week. This next week will be focused entirely on playtesting. I need to wrap up a couple features today, hopefully have them done, and then for the rest of the week we'll be building a couple test environments with some puzzles, and then I'll be putting it in front of a couple friends and getting them to playtest it. So thanks for sticking along this far in the video. If you enjoyed this content, go ahead and just give that subscribe button a little kiss for me. Just a it's a little lonely down there, and I would really appreciate it. So thanks for watching. See you next time.